This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Welcome to today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm Roby Brock. We're glad to have you with us. Joined by Josh Mahony. He is the 3rd District Democratic candidate for Congress. Good to see you, my friend.
You too, Roby.
Haven't seen you in a while.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Out on the campaign trail.
Absolutely. We've been busy burning the roads up.
Follow your social media feeds, and I see that you're always in the middle of somewhere. So.
Absolutely. You know, we try to be out there and be available to everybody in the district and have the opportunity to visit with everyone. And I tell you what, it's a blast. Everybody's so much fun.
Let's talk about a couple of the key issues of this race. Let's begin with jobs and the economy. You're in the 3rd Congressional District, which has done extremely well when you look at a lot of the economic matrix that are up there. And the economy overall is doing pretty well when you look at some things in terms of jobs in the economy. The tax cuts have allegedly triggered GDP growth. You've got job growth and low unemployment, but you also have higher deficits. You got stagnant wages. Overall, though, the economy is fairly good. Should the party in power be thrown out if the economy is doing good?
Well, you know, I think with the tax cuts, there's an interesting impact with that because wages are still flat. And we're in a very interesting district because we've got, a Fortune 1 company in our backyard that does incredibly well, but we have a lot of people also that are struggling to meet ends meet too. And not everybody has the luxury of living in Bentonville. And so we need to make sure that we're still fighting for good paying jobs, and we've got to look more long term than one quarter. You know, and the tax cut's great if you like to give a tax break to the wealthiest, but it didn't do a lot to help average Americans who are just working hard to get by. And one of those reasons that I've been such a big advocate for sustainable energy jobs is that's where the future is. Our corporations know it as well, and that's where our job growth is going to come from. And I think in the interest of people in our district, it's on us to make sure we're ahead of that trend so we have those good jobs, not just for the next quarter, but for the next 10 years.
The deficit is growing. The national debt is growing. Your opponent, Congressman Steve Womack, when he ran for office in 2009, 2010, said he was going to work on those issues. They've grown from $14 trillion of national debt to $21 trillion in national debt. Do 3rd District voters talk about this? Do they care about this?
They do. It's an interesting thing because they understand that the tax break was not for them. And on top of that, if you look at the budget that Congressman Womack has proposed, it attacks earned benefits like Social Security and Medicare. And so a lot of people are kind of seeing through what's happening here, and they understand that they're going to pay for that tax break with cuts to their Social Security and Medicare. And we can't have that. People have worked their whole lives to pay into those programs. And as far as I'm concerned, cutting Social Security is stealing from those folks because there's a guarantee that those programs are going to provide for them. And we've got to honor that promise and protect those programs.
Where do you think the strength of your base is? Is it in older voters? Is it in younger voters? Where are some key demographics for you?
Well, it's across the spectrum. My older voters obviously are very interested in protecting Social Security and Medicare. My younger voters are really just interested in healthcare as a whole. My opponent, again, has voted countless times to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. He thinks that insurance companies ought to be able to deny you coverage for a pre-existing condition. And what I'm seeing is people that are concerned about, if I'm working two full-time jobs and I want to put food on the table for my family, I shouldn't be put in the position of, can I afford to feed my kids or do I have to pay for medication? And I don't believe anybody in this country should be in a situation where they're an illness away from losing everything that they have. I don't think that's American. And my opponent, I think he thinks health care is a right for, not a right, but a privilege for the wealthy. And that's very palpable among the people that are supporting our campaign.
Talk about immigration. It's been front and center nationally, internationally, obviously with the family separation issue there. You also have probably the biggest Latino base in Arkansas in terms of voting is in the 3rd Congressional District. It's sharply divided. I hear opinions that are very one-sided, strongly in either direction. Is there any gray area on this? Are you hearing anything where there's people that are conflicted or don't understand how to resolve this problem that don't maybe have extreme views on one side or the other?
Well, first off, even though it may be a divisive issue, I think by and large, the majority is for immigration reform that provides pathways to citizenship. And the gray area, I think, has been clarified some. Unfortunately, the worst thing possibly the worst thing I've ever seen to come out of our country is separating children from their families and putting them in cages. And that has driven a lot of people to our side of the fence and to our party. My opponent, when it was suggested adding an amendment to the budget that would make sure no money was spent on further separating families, his only comment was, well, that brings up an important conversation, but it doesn't address the budget dutifully. Well, a budget's a moral document, so I think that we can read into his stance on that. But there are people that may not have understood immigration reform, but as soon as they saw those kids in cages, they've shown up to our rallies, they've held events for us. It's very interesting to see that that's been a red line for a lot of people. And I think that it would be good for our delegation to understand that that red line's been crossed and they need to do something to fix it.
Every midterm election I hear from Democrats that say if we could awaken the voters that vote in presidential elections but don't vote in midterms, we would win more of these elections. I'm getting the same spin this year around from some of my Democratic friends. We're in a midterm election. There does seem to be a lot of energy that hasn't been there in the past. But how do you activate those voters that don't vote in non-presidential election years? Are we going to see them come out this time around? What makes you believe that this year will be different?
I think we are going to see a lot of people come out. The policies of the administration have certainly galvanized a lot of folks. What I have seen is a lot of people that actually didn't even care to really be involved in politics before a presidential election become involved. And so I think we're going to see
the Indivisible group, Moms Demand, some groups like
sure,
that.
Those groups, but just other individuals, in fact. Some of our parties in our different counties have been revitalized by people that have decided to become involved in politics for the first time. Yeah. And so it's been incredible to go county to county to county in the 3rd District and see these parties restarted locally and see groups between 50 and 100 people showing up to somewhere where there might have been 5 or 10 to the point that the party lapsed locally. So it's a powerful moment. And you bring up Indivisible, the overlap between the Indivisible organization's members and the people I'm seeing in these county committees is really small. So that tells me that there are a lot of people out there that are engaged that never have been before.
All right. I'm going to be from Missouri on this, the show me state. I'm going to have to see it in the election returns before I'm going to believe that these once activated voters are going to come out in midterm elections. I got to see it to believe it.
Well, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. Michael Tilley, when I visited with him the first time after we announced, there was a lot of thought that Indivisible would be here for a month or two and die out. Yeah. And they're still around, and they're going strong. And Chintan Desai and I are the 2 people in Arkansas that have been endorsed by the National Indivisible Organization. And so, I think it's a very unique time in politics, not just in Arkansas, but in the country. But I think we're in uncharted territory. And so I don't know if anybody knows what the answer is yet, but I can tell you those people are out there and they're going to show up.
Last question for you. National Democrats, particularly on the East Coast and the West Coast, have been seeing success with some of the more Democratic Socialist platform and Democratic Socialist candidates there. Arkansas Democrats have always been a little bit more centrist. You look at Mark Pryor, Blanche Lincoln, obviously not in office anymore, but they were a lot more into the middle right there. Is that still where you think Arkansas Democrats are, or do you sense things are moving to the left?
I think things are moving to the left. When I define myself, I like to think that I fight for opportunity. That's my vision of the party, is that we provide opportunity for education. We provide opportunity for good paying jobs. We provide opportunity to have health care. Those things are important. And in Arkansas, we've got to get people excited. We've got to go out, we've got to talk to voters again and give them a reason to show up for us. We've been trying middle of the road politics for a long time, and it hasn't gotten the people out to vote, and so giving people something to be excited about, to make sure that people that are working hard every day feel like they've got somebody behind them, is important. And that's where I think we need to be. I think we need to say, hey, I'm here to fight for opportunity for you, and you've got a reason to come vote for me.
All right, so maybe a progressive giant is awakening. We will see. He's Josh Mahony. He's the 3rd District Democratic Congressional nominee. Good to see
Okay.
you.
Thank you so much, Roby. I sure do
right,
appreciate it.
All right, we'll keep up with you on the campaign
Thank
trail.
you.
That's all for today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm Roby Brock. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us.
Oh, I love you too, sweetie.
Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.
I did.
Arkansas Electric Cooperative Corporation provides electric energy across 2/3 of Arkansas. This is an exciting time in our energy history, with incredible progress being made in renewable energy and storage technologies. As our energy portfolio continues to diversify, we'll maintain an all-the-above strategy to provide reliable and affordable electricity. Ever since the first light bulbs were placed in our members' homes, the electric cooperatives have been the solutions provider for our members, and we want to continue that well into the future.